Well, good afternoon, everyone. The H1B guy here, and today, the H1B guy live, March 6th, 2024, H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2025 special edition. It's a little after 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, March 6th, 2024. And a little over 30 plus minutes ago, the H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2025 officially opened. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention that H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment-based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. And you can book an appointment directly with me via the h1bguy.com. Today's live stream is brought to you by Syndesis, the ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain, by PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process, and by Mob Squad. Are you a technology professional facing U.S. work visa-related challenges? Don't leave your fate up to chance. Our partner, Mob Squad, has the solution. Join the squad. Well, as I mentioned earlier, it is official. The H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2025 opened a little over 30 plus minutes ago. This is now the fourth edition of the H1B Lottery opening here on the H1B Guy platform that I've covered. Going back to March 9th, 2021, where I covered the H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2020. March 1st, 2022, where I covered the H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2023. And for last year, March 1st, 2023, where I covered the H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2024. So for the first time since the electronic registration, the portal for registration officially opened on March 6th. So as we've seen really over the last 4 years, March 9th being the latest, March 1st being the earliest, and now March 6th. I think as I've really talked to a lot of folks about why March 6th and what is making that unique, really it comes back to the fact that Friday was, March 1st was a Friday. And USCIS really prefers to open the lottery either on a Monday or a Wednesday. It seems like just kind of based on what we've seen traditionally speaking. The 16 days, I believe, is new, but we have until March 22nd at noon Eastern as well to get in registrations. So what I wanted to do is have anyone who has questions or comments around the H1B Lottery. I see some of those already in the chat. So those of you who've already joined me here, really appreciate it as we kick off really the official opening of H1B Lottery. I plan to address those kind of throughout the course of the conversation today and plan to stay here live streaming through at least 1 p.m., a little after 1 p.m. Eastern. What I wanted to start out with today that I think is something that I've covered already a couple of different times, but I wanted to make sure that we addressed it here right at the beginning of the live stream because I think it's very important and relevant. And that is changes for the H1B Lottery for fiscal year 2025. What has changed? And of course, the date, March 6th through the 22nd, is different than what we had seen the previous 2 years. So March 6th at noon through March 22nd at noon. So if your employer or your prospective employer who may be looking to give you an offer or has given you an offer is looking to submit you into the H1B Lottery for registration, you have 16 days and a little under 16 days now to make sure that that registration is submitted. The biggest change, though, comes in the manner of what we've been calling one passport, one shot, or one travel document, one shot. And really to simplify the explanation of what that means, that means that individuals now will be tracked by USCIS based on either their passport as a unique identifier or a travel document as a unique identifier. And the reason for this is over the last 3 years, we've seen the number of H1B registrations grow significantly. Going back to the H1B lottery for fiscal year 2023, where we saw 275,000 plus registrations. The H1B lottery for fiscal year 2024, where we saw a historically high number, 750,000 plus, of which only about 350 to 380,000 of those were unique registrations. So this is where the concept of multiple registrations had come into play. I covered that a lot here on this channel. And ultimately, it was the one time where individuals who were seeking H1B visa via the lottery could increase their probabilities by having multiple employers sponsor them. But of course, kind of through that knowledge and in that gray area, we begin to see a lot of fraudulent H1B applications, of which USCIS cracked down on significantly last year. And those fraudulent H1B applications primarily coming through organizations that had relationships or the same company sponsoring the same individual, which is strictly prohibited. Employers were only allowed to sponsor the individual once. And so we've seen some of that activity be curbed significantly by USCIS in the manner of a notice for proposed rulemaking, which ultimately became a final rule here back in the beginning of February for the lottery. And that is this: individuals now will be tracked solely by their passport or travel document. And a lot of you have asked me over and over and over, does that mean that multiple employers can still submit my registration? And the answer to that, and the way I understand it, and the way that USCIS has clarified it, is that yes, if you have multiple offers, competing offers from employers, and they choose to submit you into the H1B lottery via a registration on their own portal, it should not have any impact on whether you're selected or not. You'll be selected based on your passport or your travel document, and that being a unique individual identifier. Once selected, you as the individual, if you have multiple offers of employment where multiple employers registered you in the H1B lottery, you'll then have the choice to select who you want to submit your application. And so that is really the biggest change that we've seen that's been put into place for the fiscal year 2025 H1B lottery, is that it's one passport, one shot, one travel document, one shot. But if you have multiple employers register you and you are selected, you will have the option to choose who you want to work for going forward. And I think that's a really big designation here, and that's a huge, significant change. It does give you, as the beneficiary, the prospective employer, options for competition, compensation, responsibilities, location, things like that are at play for you now, and it gives you the option and the freedom of choice. The other thing that we saw USCIS implement that will have an impact when the lottery is finally held and applications will begin submitted is that USCIS has now created what they call an online account for petitioners. And that allows for individuals across the organization, internal employees of the petitioners, as well as their external legal counsel, to have access to their online account, a shared account, to where the data can be shared, forms can be reviewed and shared digitally. And I've been talking about digital H1B applications now for the better part of 3.5 years. And ultimately, USCIS has had the capabilities to accept digital H1B applications for several years now, but we finally see, starting in April 1st of this year, any H1B lottery selections can begin to use the digital application process. They'll still accept paper, but you can begin to use the digital application process. So this is a significant change as well that we've seen going into this year. The last thing I wanted to mention that I've been asked about a lot over the last several weeks is registration fees, the cost of registration. So for this year, and this will be the last year, the fee is $10 per individual per employer. Okay. So a $10 registration fee, which is still in place for this year. For next year, though, for fiscal year 2026, the H1B registration, the H1B lottery registration fee is slated to increase to $215. But just for this year alone, in the final year, $10 registration fee for the petitioners per individual. So wanted to clarify a few of those at the very beginning here of today's session, which makes a lot of sense. One passport, one opportunity, one shot, or one travel document, one shot. March 6th through the 22nd is the H1B lottery registration window. And of course, the registration fee is remaining at $10 for this year. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat for those of you who are tuned in. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please make sure to like this video. If you're not, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel. Go ahead and subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we post new content here to this channel. If you want to support this platform, there are means to do so via the live stream and super chats and super stickers, or super thanks if you're watching or listening to this at a later date. Your support is greatly appreciated. The next thing I wanted to jump into is discussing what my thoughts are on the number of electronic registration submissions will be received for the H1B lottery for fiscal year 2025. For those of you who follow this platform know, over the last couple of years, I've had my good friend Sophie Alcorn on to do kind of a prep for the H1B lottery. And each of the last couple of years, we've made guesses, predictions on what we expect. I'm going to temper my expectations a little bit this year and say that I expect that number to be closer to 325,000. And I believe a lot of that is based on the impact of the multiple registrations now being cracked down on from USCIS as it relates to a lot of the fraudulent investigations. I also believe now that individuals know that they have really one shot, even though they can have multiple employers sponsor them. I think that we'll see a significant reduction in the number of registrations this year. However, when we talk about 750,000 last year, and I'm saying that number is going to be cut almost 60%. I could be a little underselling the number of registrations that we could see over the next 16 days. Of course, we'll find this data out towards the middle end of April. But for now, I'm expecting that to be somewhere around 325,000 unique individual registrations for fiscal year 2025. As many of you know, and I've talked about, USCIS is a fee-based organization, and that's how they create revenue. I've covered the history of premium processing and how that is the number one revenue generating mechanism for USCIS. But I also wanted to mention that the H1B lottery has a non-refundable registration fee. So if you think about last year, that $10 non-refundable registration fee was worth about $7.5 million to USCIS. So basic fuzzy math here says if the registration fee is $10 per registration, and I'm expecting 325,000, that number is expected to be somewhere around 3.25 million just from a $10 non-refundable registration fee. And one of the biggest reasons that USCIS went to the digital platform was to reduce expenses in return postage. For those of you who are follow this platform for any amount of time, I've talked about the physical paper applications that were required as part of the H1B lottery. And we would go ahead and sign off on the H1B forms, I-129s, G28s, LCAs, offers of employment. All of those things were included in the initial lottery, and we had to send that via a courier service, typically FedEx. And that was sent to be delivered on April 1st. Because what would happen is USCIS would get 100,000 H1B applications, and then literally 3, 4, 5 days after April 1st would cut off accepting any new applications. But the digital process has changed that significantly, and it's also reduced the probability of being selected. And so, last year with 750,000 registrations for 85,000 spots, we saw pretty much historically low probabilities of being awarded. However, there was a second lottery held, as many of you know. But for this year, I'm expecting somewhere between 25 to 27%. So we'll call it 26% probability. So literally a 1 in 4-ish chance of being selected is what I'm expecting from a probability perspective for the H1B lottery for fiscal year 2025. Another question that I get frequently, and I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss here today, is the possibility of there being a second lottery for fiscal year 2025. For any of you who have followed this platform for any amount of time know that literally for the last couple of years, I've been absolutely wrong on this prediction. I've said there wasn't going to be one when there was. I said there was going to be one when there wasn't. And so hearing a lot of mixed signals in terms of what application rates look like. But I think it goes without saying that based on some of the changes that USCIS has made for this year with the one passport, one shot, moving to this, online collaborative account, I really believe that we'll only see one H1B lottery random selection for fiscal year 2025. I do expect that sometime probably end of July, maybe even the beginning of August, we'll receive notification from USCIS that the lottery and the H1B quota for fiscal year 2025 has been met. If we don't receive that notification, on the flip side of that would be somewhere in the last 10 days of July to the first 10 days of August, we would most likely expect to receive a notification that a second random selection was held. So I think that's a realistic timeline. When we look at hey, when would we know if a second lottery would be held? It'd be somewhere in the last 10 days of July, first 10 days of August. Okay. The last thing that I did want to mention, which I failed to cover earlier, is I do expect somewhere between March 23rd through March 25th, those individuals that have been randomly selected will be notified, or their petitioning employers will be notified. It could potentially go as far as March 26th, but I really expect by the end of Friday, beginning of Saturday, March 23rd, USCIS will have held the random selection. We'll begin pushing out notifications, and those should begin, again, being received March 23rd, 25th, 26th, the beginning of the following week. The reason being is that beginning on April 1st, USCIS will begin accepting applications, and they'll give a typical 90-day window, which will run through June 30th of 2024. So it must be received by June 30th of 2024. So a 90-day window there. And that's why I reference the last 10 days of July, the first 10 days of August, as the possibility of notification that the quota has been met or that a second random selection will be held. But for right now, I don't believe that will be the case. Okay. So I wanted to now reach out to some of you in the chat and see if you can post in the chat, how many lottery attempts is this for you? Is this your first lottery attempt? Is this your second lottery attempt? Is this your last, third, final, fourth? There are several of you I know that have talked to me that have mentioned that you've been in the lottery 3, 4, 5 times. So if you're tuning in live, I'd love for you if you can just drop that in the chat. How many attempts is this for you? As you're looking to have your name submitted via registration in the H1B lottery? I'd love to hear a couple and share a couple of your stories if you can share those in the chat. While we wait for those to come through, I did want to just mention again, if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Follow me across all the socials, the H1B Guy on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the H1B Guy channel on Telegram. I know a lot of you listen to this and consume this via the H1B Guy podcast, so thank you for your continued support on that platform as well. Follow me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me there on LinkedIn as well. But again, just a quick ask for those of you who are tuning in live, please, if you'll post in the chat, what lottery attempt is this for you at this point? Have you had any failed attempts? Is this your first, second, third time that you're going into the H1B lottery? I'd like to share some of those stories. But while I wait for some of those to come in, if you have questions or comments, also post those in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And how likely are chances to get H1B for master students? Well, that's a great question from Poster Unicorn here. And here's what I'll tell you. Having a U.S. master's, I'm assuming that's what you're referring to, a U.S. master's degree, not an international master's degree, but a U.S. master's degree really kind of creates the best of both worlds, in the sense that you're eligible for the advanced degree 20,000, but also can be eligible in that 65,000 as well. So the initial 65,000 plus the U.S. advanced degree, which is 20,000. So odds tend to be a little bit higher when we look at probability for U.S. based master students. But I can tell you time and time again, I know several U.S. educated individuals with STEM degrees, master STEM degrees here from U.S. institutions that have not been selected and have to consider a plan B. But chances are a little bit higher, Unicorn, for those with master's degrees that are from the U.S. So thank you for your question. Again, if you have other questions or comments, please feel free to post those in the chat and I will get to those. Akrit Udo says, very much interested, need your professional assistance and appreciation. Hey, thanks. One of the things that I talk about a lot, Akrit, is trying to make sure that the communication style here for me on this platform is as simple as we can get it. For many of you who follow this platform for any amount of time know, I'm not an attorney. I am a staffing expert and work authorization expert. I have almost 20 years in IT recruiting and staffing, and I currently serve as COO for a staffing company based out of Alpharetta, Georgia called Tier 4 Group. So I'm very close to the vest in terms of talent acquisition and demand as it relates to supplemental talent acquisition in the form of H1B visas. So when I launched this platform, back in June of 2020, the platform was launched under the assumption to try to target employers who may be looking to bring clarity around their talent acquisition strategies as it relates to H1B visas, as well as immigrants who are outside of the U.S. who are looking to come to the U.S. for either advanced degrees, bachelor's degrees, and pursue H1B visas. And kind of through all of that, really my political interest in removing and addressing the green card backlog took flight over the summer of 2020 as Senate Bill S386, Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants Act, was being hotly debated in the Senate, and I covered that exclusively and extensively and met and was introduced to a lot of people through that. So Akrit says, it is your first attempt. I'm very interested and haven't tried before. Wish you the best of luck. Madhava says, I have a bachelor's degree from the U.S., so does that mean I'm only eligible for the 65,000 slots? Yes, that's correct, Madhava. The reason being is that 20,000 is for advanced degrees in the U.S., advanced meaning bachelor's or higher. Curious, what did you get your bachelor's degree in? Are you considering going ahead and beginning work under an OPT? Are you looking to potentially continue to go to school and get a master's degree if you're not selected? I ask these questions, Madhava, because I want to make sure that we talk about H1B alternatives. And that is, what is your plan B if you're not selected? Because ultimately, if you're not selected and your status, whether that's OPT or potentially OPT STEM, if you're in advanced master's category, 60 days is a very short amount of time to either find an opportunity or seek alternate solutions. And I've covered this a lot, but many of my partnerships with Syndesis, as well as Mob Squad, and Syndesis as well as Mob Squad, help assist individuals that are currently located in the U.S. as well as individuals from around the world to relocate their occupation, their job to Canada. The other option that I've become very adamant about and referring folks to is my friend Daniel Goldman and what they do at Open Avenues through CAP exempt. So very timely here when we talk about what that means. CAP exempt. CAP exempt means you're not subject to the H1B lottery. So it's a great alternative or option for a part-time basis to work under an H1B CAP exempt status as a fellow or a research fellow. Emily Marshall asks, where is all this row demand coming from? And are they backlogged already with hundreds of pending applications at DSO? So possible for more backlog. This is a little outside of the H1B Lottery Special Edition, but I think it's a good question because when we talk about the H1B Lottery, it is meant to assign out 85,000 visas on a fiscal year annual basis. And the reason why this is viable is because, I talk about the green card backlog a lot, specifically for individuals from India, China, Philippines, Mexico. But by row, rest of world, this refers to all chargeability, where there are final action dates and dates of filing that have been established. And ultimately, the reason for this is demand. And what we had seen previously over the last several years is there was a lot of spillover that came from employment-based preferences that were unused during the pandemic. And so that's why we saw a lot of dates be current and a lot of advancement of dates is because of the number of spillover. And so, my understanding in terms of the number of available visas as we see for this year is around 162,000. I don't have an exact number in front of me, but we've seen that number be 180 to 190,000, even upwards of 200,000 plus over the last several years. But yeah, you're seeing dates be established because there's fewer spillover and there is more demand. And the best way for you, Emily, to go and track that is via the I-140 approval numbers, and you can back those dates based on when those I-140s were approved for rest of world. And you can access that information via USCIS. But that data is very helpful for me as I look at predicting my monthly visa bulletin predictions. Thanks for joining. Emily, really appreciate the question. Madhava says, you have a STEM degree and right now you're on your initial OPT, right? Absolutely glad to provide you with my insights, and thank you for joining in. So Madhava, I would kind of walk through this from the perspective of, if you're not selected in the lottery, if you find out you're not selected, really before the beginning of April, you may want to consider what your next step is, and if that's pursuing an advanced degree or potentially even a CPT track could be a possibility for you. And through that CPT track, you could work 20 hours or you could work full time. So, well, again, wanted to just close out today and thank everyone who took time to join me here during today's live stream. As we know, a little after 12:30 p.m., we went live just 30 minutes after the H1B Lottery registration for fiscal year 2025 opened with USCIS. As you know, it will run through March 22nd, 12 p.m. Eastern. March 22nd, 2024, 12 p.m. Eastern, with selections and notifications most likely beginning as early as March 23rd, potentially through the 25th or 26th. And then those that are selected will be eligible to begin applying April 1st through June 30th. A $10 registration fee is still the norm for this year, and expect increases in that registration fee for the fiscal year 2026 H1B Lottery. And the biggest changes we talked about is one passport, one shot, one travel document, one shot, which is hopefully will help curb a lot of the multiple registrations. However, individuals still can have multiple employers register them based on competing offers for employment. So with that being said, I just wanted to say today's live stream, of course, is brought to you by our partner, Syndesis, the ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. If you're facing an H-1B denial or OPT expiration, don't get caught off guard. Make sure you have a plan B, and Syndesis is your answer. They'll gladly help you navigate the process, and if you'd like to find out if you qualify, please be sure to use the link in the video description below, and someone from Syndesis will be in touch. By PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. If you're looking to reduce your costs and overhead associated with PERM labor certification recruitment advertising, let PERM-ads.com help you. And by Mob Squad. Are you a technology professional facing U.S. work visa-related uncertainty? Don't leave your fate up to chance. Our partner, Mob Squad, has a solution. Mob Squad helps technology professionals facing U.S. work visa-related challenges remain working with their current U.S. employer nearshore from Canada, as well as technology professionals from around the world who are seeking to find a rewarding opportunity in North America. Through their partnership with the Canadian government, they can obtain a Canadian work permit for you and your spouse in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. So whether you're looking to stay working with your current U.S. employer or you want to find a new opportunity in Canada, please find out how the team at Mob Squad can help you via the link in the video description below. Join the squad. Just wanted to ask you again one last time to please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we post new content here to this channel. If you've made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to watch my stream. I really appreciate your support. If you're watching or listening to this at a later date, thank you so much for taking time to watch my video. Follow me on Twitter, the H1B Guy, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Connect with me there. Make sure you're subscribed to the H1BGuy.com for all of the latest posts that I put out on the website. And just wanted to wish each and every one of you who is going into the lottery, whether it be your first, second, third, fourth, fifth attempt, nothing but success and the best of luck. I'm Robert. I'm the H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.